Hey, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Kyle.
Oh my gosh, I'm back.
It's been too long, and we have Scott coming back as well.
Welcome back, nerds.
Here we go. We have a lot to cover today, mostly New York Comic Con. We're going to have a review for Silent Hill, and we're talking about that new big patch for World of Warcraft. But let's begin with our question of the week. So, you're in charge of rebooting a forgotten 80s or 90s cartoon. What show do you bring back, and is there a modern twist you want to add on it? Let's go over to you, Scott. I know you've got a few options for us.
Okay. First off, Space Ghost.
Okay.
Right? It was like a weird, quirky cartoon talk show almost, you know? Yeah. And I think if you could bring that back, modernize it a bit, almost like a Comedy Central, kind of just news, telling us about stuff. I don't know. I just like to see it again. Space Ghost was a lot of fun. I know the voice actor got screwed, so we could bring him back, getting him a job, I don't know. It just seemed like it'd be really fun. And we could clean it up and do some cool stuff with it. My other two were Darkwing Duck.
Classic. Which
I was thinking you could animate it, so instead of like that cartoony, 90s cartoon, more like a kind of a gritty anime, or you Detective Pikachu it.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
A Darkwing Duck like that animated plus real world combination of like a crime show, like a crime detective show,
solving world
and
murders.
Then Captain Planet. I think we all kind of forget about Captain Planet and the great things that Captain Planet taught us. Mm-hmm. And we could bring that back. We could put some modern animation on it. And instead of just like, oh, we're cleaning toxic sludge from the river, there's always new environmental things that we all could learn about. And, as we go into the future, I think we kind of bring that back.
That show is crazy informative too, formative for our generation as well. And that's brought back. Kyle, let's go to you, man. What do you got for us?
Oh boy, are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Are you ready?
Okay, as a kid, I had one VHS tape, or actually maybe it was two, but it had like 2 episodes each of a show I loved as a kid. And I've only ever seen those 4 episodes on repeat, maybe like a dozen times.
Dang,
it's called Mask. Have you heard of Mask?
Like based off of the movie?
The Jim Carrey movie?
No, this is basically like a vehicular combat cartoon where
oh my God.
It's kind of like G.I. Joe, but they have vehicles that they race with and they transform into like combat vehicles too. And on top of that, they have these masks they put on each character, and the masks have special powers.
Oh my God.
It's so awesome. Like, think about this. Like, there's an actual mask. Back then there were a lot of stereotypes, right? Like that, we can't avoid that. Yeah, there's a Native American character who's masked through tomahawks.
That is definitely something that's going to change.
I think it will. I mean, of course, you got to keep in mind modern audiences.
It was a different time.
I love how the idea for this series is like, we like Transformers, we like G.I. Joes, we like superheroes. Let's make it all.
It's kind of like G.I. Joe and Transformers mashed up together.
Yeah.
But with the special mask thing. And it's got a catchy theme song, which is classic. Like, I highly recommend you watch at least one episode of this.
Yes,
it's incredible. Like, I love that. Try to find the trailer so much as a kid. It's amazing.
I'm gonna try to find it, not the trailer, but like the intro for it, and post it on our social media.
It's so badass. It's a banger.
That's wild. For me, it's going to be Gummy Bears, which was a fantasy series for kids back in the early 90s.
Gummy Bears.
Yeah. And I want that brought back, but I want a serious Netflix-style anime version of it where we're actually talking about like politics in medieval times, and there's this faction of hidden bears that drink this certain mystic river that they have that, transforms them into warriors, not just bouncing warriors, but warriors. And that would be a lot of fun. And now I'm like thinking like D&D, but gummy bears.
D&D, but gummy bears.
Interesting. Okay. I could kind of see that actually. Yeah. That'd be fun.
That's what I want. We talk about this because Mike Flanagan is actually bringing back Carrie, Stephen King's Carrie, for a series. And I actually think that would be a very good series. I think the idea of like you're building up, like Carrie's got a terrible mom, she's being teased at school. Then all of a sudden they kind of prank her into like, oh, don't you want to be prom queen? And then she becomes prom queen and then loses it. And we could have hints to her psychic abilities throughout the series. I think that would be a pretty good series. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if it's just the original story, I struggle to see how long you can realistically draw that out without it just being boring after a while. Like the pacing could be off. But if you're willing to, and obviously Stephen King is willing to let you, take creative license with it and add to the story and enhance the story. I mean, Carrie's simple but effective, I think.
Yeah. What do you think, Kyle?
I mean, first of all, Mike Flanagan, everything he does is pretty much quality. Like I love everything he makes. Fall of the House of Usher last year was easily my favorite show last year. Yeah. And he's done other great ones like Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, as well as Midnight Mass. That's a really underrated show, I think.
I haven't seen that one yet. We were all discussing those 4 shows, and none of us had seen Midnight Mass yet. So we're like, okay, we got to watch that.
Oh, you have to. It's a very slow burn, but the ending is incredible. Like I highly recommend it.
All right.
Yeah. And for adapting Stephen King stuff, he's done Dr. Sleep already. So why not have him do Carrie? It makes total sense.
Speaking of Dr. Sleep, just to kind of plug another show, of course, is over on Challenge Accepted. We just covered The Shining. That episode is coming out. Matter of fact, it's coming out today. That's funny. It's actually in the hopper for today. So we talk about The Shining, and then, of course, it leads into Dr. Sleep, which is the sequel to it. So, yeah, Mike Flanagan cannot do wrong, so I'm happy for it.
Absolutely.
Let's dig into New York Comic Con. There are so many things announced. We have an article over on the website where we talk about a lot of the things, but there is even more than that. So just keep that in mind, guys. But let's start with what are a couple of our favorite hitters. I'm going to begin off with Marvel's big event for 2025 is going to be Rise of Emperor Doom. To catch you guys up on what's going on with Dr. Doom. First off, yes, he's coming to the MCU, so that's a big deal. But in the comic books, he has taken the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme from Doctor Strange. He stole it. And with those new powers, this amplified magic abilities of his, he's now claiming to be the Emperor of Earth. The trick with this run is that some of the heroes think it's a good idea. They're like, is it so wrong for him to just take charge so that he helps protect us from outside forces and whatnot? And that reminds me so much of like the Civil War kind of storylines where heroes will fall on either side of this. And I like that. And we're in the kind of a political year now. It won't be when this comes out, but there are questions of kind of like, what's wrong with this? What's right with this? And that kind of nuance is really fun in a comic book to explore, especially when you got Doctor Strange. So I'm looking forward to that one. And that's going to be a 5-issue series with, of course, spinoffs coming out February 2025.
I got to raise my hand and ask a question.
Of course.
Is Doctor Doom a good guy in this?
He's always a bad guy. He's always a defender of his nation, I should clarify. Sure. And oftentimes that puts him at odds with other people. So there are times when it's like, oh, there's a threat to Earth. I'll defend Earth because my nation, Latvia, is on Earth. And
okay, he's got motivations. Yeah. Okay, we got it.
He does. He's one of the better characters Marvel's ever created. And he's coming to the MCU, helmed by Robert Downey Jr. of all people. So this is a good time to kind of start bringing him back up and getting him out there for everybody else. Let's go to one of your guys' favorites. Where was some of your picks from this one? Let's go with you, Kyle.
They showed a new Wolfman trailer, which was pretty cool to me. I like the Universal Monster franchise, and always nice to see like a reboot or a refresh of that whole genre of cinema. It looks pretty good. I think Julia Garner will do a good job personally because she's a great actress. Like I loved her in Ozarks. Yes, thank you. And yeah, I think it'll be a slam dunk. Hopefully, it's got decent prosthetic use and practical effects. That's what I'm hoping for. It looks like
personally. It's mostly it's like it's lower budget and they went back to the old school way. It's like mostly practical effects, and that has me excited. And it goes from like this like being hunted by a werewolf to being stuck in a cabin with a werewolf, and that kind of smaller set makes it more intimate, makes it a little bit more frightening. I'm really excited for this project. I think it's gonna be good.
That's pretty much what caught my interest primarily from these announcements. But there's also the Spider-Man 2 news of no DLC, which was crazy. Like
that's insane.
I can't blame them because everything got leaked, but it's still unfortunate that they felt the need to nix all of that content just because of that.
Do you feel ripped off as a consumer because because they kind of promised, right, that we're going to get this like Venom DLC or, Carnage follow up and stuff like that. Do you feel ripped off, or do you feel like the base game's what you bought and any extras would have been nice?
I don't recall there being like a season pass included with like the special edition, which is what I bought. I didn't buy like the whole collector's edition shebang, but I think for the digital deluxe edition, it just came with what was promoted, like the extra suits or whatever. Yeah. I don't think there was ever like a season pass you could buy beforehand. So I do feel like I got a full package with the game. I loved it personally, even though I've heard like some complaints about it in the post-release analysis of it. But yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. Like, I thought Venom was incredibly well done in that game. It was a disappointment that he won't get DLC, but maybe they'll save it for the third game.
That's the thing, is if they hadn't announced this. So first off, we also are hearing that it's coming out beginning of next year on PC. So if you guys haven't played it yet because you're a PC only person, don't worry, it's coming your way. And I do feel like it's completely worth the $60-$70 that I paid for the original game. If they had announced this with the idea of like, by the way, in 2026, the next game's coming out, would have softened the blow from this, because then it goes from like, well, all that DLC content might have been too big. And we could have gotten like that Miles Morales type of thing we got out of the last one, where maybe it's a half game for cheaper or something like that. That would, I think, soften the blow. Unfortunately, we didn't get any updates on a new game coming out of Insomniac. It
would have been a positive spin on that bad news, but I guess they just took the L.
Yeah. Now,
I could see, like if Venom is, they started work on a Venom DLC, then, you always have to ask, well, how much can you really charge for a DLC? I think it's usually a maximum about $40, like a $39.99 people might pay, which is I think maybe what Phantom Liberty was, or it was $29.99. Either way, like anywhere $20 to $40 for a major DLC seems to be acceptable right now. And maybe they think, no, we can just make a Venom game and get $70 out of it, but it is strange that they didn't even say that, there's so
as a PC player,
it's really, really weird choices here.
Yeah. You didn't play it on PS5, right? Because you're a PC man. Are you picking this game up as a PC player?
I'll probably pick it up. I'll probably wait till it goes on sale though.
Okay.
Understandable. Yeah. It's a 2-year-old game, I think, at this point. Or 1-year-old. Sorry.
Yeah, it's still very worth it in my opinion. Like, the story is immaculate and the world is so wonderful. It's one of those games we talked about in the past where like traversal is so important to make a game good.
Oh,
this
flawless.
is it.
Yeah.
They took what already was working well and they're like, how about gliding? And I was like, yes, it works great. So,
I will say, every time like I've watched someone else play it or whatever, just watching them, web through the world has always been pretty neat to see. So, that does look like a lot of fun.
Did you play the first one by chance?
No, I haven't bothered with any Spider-Man games.
We might have to get you set up for that first one. The ending of the first one, actually, I streamed back when I used to stream stuff. But the ending of the first one was like, this is cinematic. This is a movie, if not better. Yeah, it was so good.
I was there for that. It was a great moment.
All right, let's Scott. What's some of your picks from New York Comic Con?
So the two things that I'm most interested in would be Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
Although I'm a little concerned that maybe it'll be too much, just like another Suicide Squad. Which, Suicide Squad it's a mixed bag, right? The first movie was, it was okay. The second movie I thought was actually, better, and actually pretty enjoyable, but it's been a mixed bag. And then we had the Suicide Squad video game, which I think released.
It released and bombed so hard.
It bombed. Exactly. Like, I had to remember, did it actually release? Because it was such a disappointment for everybody.
I wish Squeaks was here for that, because I never really got to hear his thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I know he just stopped playing, and I know Thomas returned for one of the DLCs, and the DLC was so half-assed that he's just like, this is a waste of my money. So yeah, I think across the board it's been meh. But as for the Creature Commandos, does it feel different than Suicide Squad? To me, I get a little bit of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen vibes from it because it kind of brings in those universal monsters. And I think that's a really fun way to play with it. The pitch that Amanda Waller just can't use humans, like there's a law that Congress says you can't use humans, that feels kind of empty. That's easy enough to get around. But I do like the idea of like, hey, let's use this to bring in Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde or something like that. I'm all for that. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think, first of all, DC just seems to work better on the small screen.
Yeah, it does.
DC movies in general, the entire DC EU has been very mixed bag, very just kind of unenjoyable. Everyone has a couple movies that they like, but overall, the entire universe has been a flop. But like the Harley Quinn show on HBO is really good. Batman TV shows are always successful. Teen Titans, you put, Gotham, you put DC on a decent television show with decent writers, and they do very well. The Flash, Green Arrow, I think this is the way to go and just stop trying to be the MCU. So I think if they take what they learned from like Suicide Squad, because it is a similar dynamic, and take what was good about it and put it into this and try to avoid, let's make, the Jared Leto Joker, that didn't go over great. You don't need to break new ground right now, I don't think. You just need to make something good.
Especially after the second Joker movie that just came out.
Oh, yeah, come on.
Madam Web's over there like, we're looking pretty good over here, guys.
Indeed.
Yeah, you need to win some goodwill from the fans back.
Well, I think they are with James
something
Gunn,
solid.
I think James Gunn, first off, he's the one that's leading this Creature Commando. And if there's anybody who knows how to make those found family superhero movies with Guardians of the Galaxy, the second Suicide Squad that you talked about, those are James Gunn projects. The fact that he's doing this and everything else with DC is very promising in my opinion. But also his casting choices so far with DCU and the words that we're hearing out of him from like bringing in Crypto the dog and stuff, feels like he's just like, you know what? We know that you guys like the comic books. We know what you guys like, what you've already known. Let's just perfect that instead of trying to. It's the Blizzard model, right? Like, we're not going to invent something new. We're just going to make it more polished. That's what he's doing with the next era of DC, and I think that might be a good move. So while, yes, up to now, small screens where they thrived, I'm hoping we're entering in a new era of them taking over the big screen. This last phase of DC has been very rough to watch on the big screen. I'm hoping we're past that. And I think we are based off of what I've seen so far in the casting.
I was going to ask, isn't the new Penguin show pretty good?
Fantastic.
It's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't sat down to watch it yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. Once again, TV show. Those DC plot lines often, the characters and the plots need time to thrive that you can't get in, an hour and a half, 2 hours,
Yeah.
My other one was Secret Level, which, they did, what was it, Death, Love, and Robots or whatever, which was weird because it was like,
very well done.
Here's an episode that it's own just little 20-minute story or less sometimes, and then that's it. Now there's another episode and they're not even related. And it was weird at first, but I found myself enjoying it. And I think in the world today, not everything needs to be the next Game of Thrones, the next MCU. Sometimes you just want those bite-sized tales, those short story kind of format, which we see in, the shift from maybe long form YouTube to short form TikToks and reels and shorts and whatever, so I think, the creators are pretty much the same creators. They did a great job before. And I think it could go really well.
This go around, though, of course, with the next level is that every one of the stories, instead of being so isolated, are in a familiar video game universe. And for the one that I'm most excited for is God of War. They're going to be using the 2018 world, and I think that's a good way of kind of having this creative tissue, like we see with something like Black mirror, where the idea is that, oh, it's, the future tech and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that there's going to be a lot of good stories there. Is there any particular world you guys would want them to visit just to show a little bit of what's going on in that world?
Oh, within the series?
Secret level. Yeah.
Okay. Me personally, I've never dabbled into anything Warhammer, so I'm kind of curious to see what that's
Warhammer.
about. I'm excited to see what they do with that. Hopefully it captures my interest and I can explore more titles within that franchise.
Because Henry Cavill's making Warhammer too, so
I'm looking forward to that. And Voltron. Interestingly.
So busy. Yeah. What about you, Scott? Is there any particular?
No, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat of Warhammer. I'm really just kind of interested to see where they go and what they choose to do, and then what it may bring. In that, there's a feeling of maybe it's an experiment. Let's throw out a Warhammer cartoon and see if people like it. And if people like it, maybe we have a new Warhammer animated series. Or whatever, Castlevania. I think that's kind of the play here. Throw out, an episode of this, an episode of that from different gaming franchises. And when something hits and people are like, yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. Boom, that's your next series,
Yeah.
But you don't have to invest in an entire first season of something just to watch it flop.
And Prime that's making this is also there is a God of War series that's already in the works. And Prime that's making this is making that. So it would be nice for them to kind of like touch like, oh, you know what? This part of that worked. This part didn't work. So let's, bend and tweak and make it work. So that'd be really nice.
I just heard, I read on IGN that the God of War show just had its complete showrunner and production crew like walk off the show.
Oh, jeez.
So that's probably been on hiatus now. So
that's not good.
Yeah.
That does not bode well.
They all just we're like, we're done with this.
That is breaking news. I didn't hear about that yet.
I would not get your hopes up, folks. I would just
as of yesterday. Yeah, that happened.
Yesterday. Okay. Well, you know what? Prime, just hire us. We'll take care of it for you guys. I'll play Kratos. I'll have to do some push-ups, whatever, but I'll get in shape for it.
God, that's like the Vampire the Masquerade sequel that's supposed to be coming out. Sequel used loosely.
Never coming out.
I mean, even if it does come out, honestly, as far as the major fandom is concerned, it'll be garbage. So just know that.
My next big thing, my last big thing I want to make sure to bring up is Daredevil Born Again. We have an official release date now of March 4th, 2025. We talked about this in the past, that this is one of the first shows that has a showrunner, a show Bible. It's being restructured under the Bob Iger, Kevin Feige involvement. The first show to actually have a showrunner and show Bible of the Disney Plus era is Agatha All Along. And the perception of Agatha All Along so far has been spectacular. It is one of the best shows that Marvel has put out on Disney Plus. I'm absolutely loving every single week, and to see the changes already in place that like, hey, it's a smaller budget, but it's more about character driven stuff. Who'da thunkin' that people want that on a TV show? The fact that they're doing that with Daredevil has me so excited for this. Vincent D'Onofrio coming back as Kingpin. We have Charlie Cox, of course, returning as Daredevil, and we have confirmation that John Bernthal is returning as the Punisher. So
awesome.
I can't wait to get back to Hell's Kitchen, guys. It feels like they didn't completely ditch the Netflix thing, but they're also kind of making sure it's a little bit more MCU-ish. Scott, what do you think about them bringing back Daredevil?
So I'm not like a Daredevil fan per se, so I don't really have an investment in this. Mm-hmm. And I did try to watch the TV show and I ended up falling asleep. So I'm not sure what that means. I was also working a lot, so maybe I was just tired. I don't know. But I never got around to watching it again. I do remember like the Ben Affleck movie back in the day. Didn't go over great. And I think that's being generous. So I guess for me, I just kind of wonder, do we need another Daredevil show right now?
Yes.
Okay. Like that's my only question. Like, is Daredevil so popular and necessary that it's like, oh, we really should do another show? Or is it just like familiar territory we've already been down a few times recently, I mean, recently being subjective.
I mean, I haven't watched the Netflix show at all with Charlie Cox, but I know of him in the Spider-Man movies. He made cameos as Peter Parker's lawyer, and I enjoyed those scenes that he was in. And he was also in, I believe, Hawkeye and Echo, if I'm not mistaken.
He's in Echo. I don't know about the Hawkeye one, but I know he's in Echo.
I think he showed up in one of those shows. Maybe it was the one with Black Widow's sister.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
He's important. Well, just real quick, he's important because he is the forefront of the grounded level of Marvel stories right now. Because so much of Marvel can get lost in the Asgardian effects and even Spider-Man, who's trying to save all of New York. What's nice about Daredevil is he's trying to save a street from a corrupt mob boss. And it's something that is like literally you could read about in any newspaper today, is that there's like some mob boss that's getting a little out of control and you just wish there was somebody who stayed up against them. Or like there's a corrupt politician. So that's where Daredevil comes in, is he brings in that grounded front, the things that literally affect you on your day-to-day basis. And that's why Daredevil is so relatable to a lot of people. I grew up loving him because he's a good old Catholic boy like me. And it was fun to see like, oh, look, he's still, in that stuff. And, so as long as you see something in that character, and I think for Daredevil, there's a lot of people who see stuff in him, pun not intended with him being blind, but you see what you can from him. But I do think he's needed for Marvel to lead that grounded force, because sometimes you get lost in the Thor, you get lost in the cosmic stuff, and it's like, okay, it's cool, but I don't see any value in it.
That's what I was going to bring up as well. It's like the scale. I think the scale of Daredevil being smaller than the rest of the heroes will just focus more on like the character development of, the villains and the heroes and the story that are introduced in that show. And I think overall it'd be a good way of bringing Daredevil back into the fold of Marvel, like into that universe.
Yeah.
Because I think that Netflix show is kind of not tied into the rest of it.
It references it, but it's not. They have said it's like loosely canon. This is going to be fully canon. Is there a chance? Okay, so Scott, you gave it a shot. Kyle, you haven't given it a shot at all. Are you guys interested in watching that Netflix version of Daredevil, which is now on Disney Plus, by the way, too? If you wanted to see it over there, would you give that a shot now? Like Kyle, for you, who hasn't seen it at all?
It's 3 seasons, right? That's a bit of a commitment. I think I'll just wait for this new one, Born Again, to get into the show and the character. But go ahead, Scott.
I mean, I'll probably go ahead and give it a shot once I'm done watching Lost, finally. No spoilers, guys. I'm only on season 4.
Stop there. There's your spoiler. Stop there. You're fine.
No, keep watching. It's worth the ride.
Oh, man. Okay. I mean, I'm not against giving it another try. Like I said, it was a time where I was working a lot of hours. And I remember, my roommate at the time, he was watching it. I just kind of sat down on the couch, and next thing I know, I was knocked out. So, I mean, maybe I was sleep deprived, or maybe I was bored, or maybe a little bit of column A, column B. We'll find out. I'll try it again and let you know, though.
Man, those good old days of you and your roommate playing video games, man, that takes me back. Oh man, that's funny. Is there anything else you guys want to shout out from New York Comic Con that you think we should be bringing up?
I did. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention, you probably want to just briefly cover all the Star Trek stuff.
Yes, I do. Let's just touch on it real quick because I know that kind of deserves its own thing. But yeah, Lower Decks is coming out the 24th, so that'll be out this week. It's the final season for Lower Decks. Starfleet Academy has already been renewed for a second season, which is impressive. And they're adding Tatiana Maslany, which is She-Hulk. So if you guys are She-Hulk fans, she's joining the Star Trek universe. As a reminder, Robert Picardo is coming back as well as the Doctor. Jonathan was able to talk to him at the convention about that. Cool. Strange New World Season 3 has just wrapped the filming, and we heard that Rhys Darby is in one of the episodes from Our Flag Means Death. He's so fantastic, and I really hope he just plays that character in space. I'd be happy with that too. And Section 31, which is a Star Trek kind of like secret agent movie that's coming out January 24th, and that's going to have Michelle Yeoh. We got our first look at that with some of the cast and stuff, so it's going to be a really good time for Star Trek fans, as it has been for a couple years now. So we're living pretty good right now. And then another thing just to quickly touch on is, of course, Absolute over at DC's been taking off really quite a bit right now. Absolute Wonder Woman's coming out this week, but they also announced that Absolute Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, and Flash are also in the works, coming out in 2025. So if you are liking the Absolute line, this idea of characters with just a little bit of a twist in their backstory and how much that changes them, more of those are on their way too. They're building up that Absolute Justice League that I know we all want. Yeah. Anything else before we move forward?
I just wanted to kind of throw the question out there. So Dune, right? They've got like a Dune prequel going on. So is this the next Game of Thrones? You know, like, are they trying to build a huge flung franchise, you know, like the MCU, you know, around the Dune universe? You think that's what's coming?
So, yeah, it's coming out November 17th, by the way, guys, if you guys want to tune in on that. But it's 10,000 years before the events of Dune, and it's going to be all about the foundation of the Bene Gesserit. And it is based off the book. It's based off of Sisterhood of Dune. So there is some source material, which always makes it turn out a little bit better.
It usually helps, yeah.
Yeah. I'm cool with it because I think already just in Dune, there's so much political intrigue between the families. If we could amplify that into a series, like we were talking about with DC, right? Like on the small screen, you can let it breathe a little bit more. And I think with the Dune movies, that might not translate super well. Like I think the battles in the Dune movies are so much cooler, or in the world discovery, that sometimes we don't get to let the Harkonnens and the Atreides really breathe. This might be a place for that. What do you guys think?
It has potential. I think, you know, there is a lot of different ways they could go about this. Like, I've always loved the idea of each season being like a different focal point in the universe. Like each season could be like its own family focus. Yeah. Like one season's Harkonnen, one season is the Atreides, and one season would be like, you know, the Fremen. Like that could be really cool. But
that would be cool
because it's so far back. I feel like this may be like a 1 or 2 season companion piece to the movies, and they'll stop it there.
Oh, yeah, you think they'll call it there? Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's, you know, there's a lot of content out there. I don't know how many books, you know, have been written on Dune, but I know it's quite a few.
Yeah.
You know, so, and of course the universe itself is pretty well established, you know, so even like a Star Wars Legends back in the day. I mean, people were just coming up with new stories and like, hey, George Lucas, can I write a book about it? And he's like, as long as you pay me, you know? So, you know, I think there's a lot of content there, and the Dune movies have gone over pretty well. So if the show does well, you know, every studio is looking for like the next Game of Thrones, the next MCU. And, you know, we've seen like Rings of Power flop. You know, like the Wheel of Time is struggling. You know, like everyone who tries to emulate that, it seems to fail. I don't know of any of the big universes that seem to have brought that same kind of chemistry together. But if the Dune TV show, you know, this new show does well, I don't see why they wouldn't just keep milking it, you know. And I don't say that even as a bad way. Like it's a kind of a completely new universe that hasn't been done a million times before.
Yeah. And with a 10,000 year time span too, you could really play around with it, and like you could just go ahead and make shit up at a certain point, you know, like much of House of the Dragon's doing, and kind of freeball it a little bit. Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move all around. We're not going to lose, that's for sure.
Absolutely. We're just eating it all up.
Yeah. Our next up, let's leave New York Comic Con behind, and let's head into let's head into, Scott, you're going to bring to us a story about a new meme coin that we should all invest in. Go ahead and tell us about it.
All right. So we're going to give a little bit of backstory, right? You know, obviously we've all heard of crypto. You know, for some of us older folks, crypto still doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, we're still stuck in a world where things in general have a tangible value, right? Mm-hmm. Walmart has a stock price. That stock price is based on the merchandise that they sell and the stores that they own, right? And crypto is not that. Now, obviously, stocks can be very overvalued too, right? Like Tesla, for example, is super overvalued. If the stock tanked, they couldn't turn around and sell Teslas and factories and make as many billions as it is worth on paper, right? So sometimes, you're selling people on an idea or just a name. And that's kind of where crypto is. I'm sure some crypto bros will be very upset with me on Twitter after this, but it's very intangible. There's not like an asset you can buy and sell. It's just you're selling an idea basically. Mm-hmm. So meme coins kind of take that a step further, where like Bitcoin kind of set up a system, and mining is kind of like the time and the effort and the electricity, the investment into the Bitcoin that creates the Bitcoin that you then buy and sell. So there's at least some sort of foundation of something. But meme coins is just like, aha, Dogecoin's so funny, buy my meme coin, and it literally is just internet memeing on a financial scale. And so this guy, I don't remember his name. He took 2 or more, but I believe it was 2 large language models. So what we're calling AI these days. Mm-hmm. And he stuck them in a chat room basically and let them talk to each other.
That's a scary idea.
So it's not Chat GPT talking to you and learning from you and what you respond and what it looks up on the internet. It's learning from another AI. So the AIs are now talking. And it kind of degenerated into the weirdest, strangest corners of 4chan and Reddit. Yeah. Just the conversation, which I believe the parts of the conversation are posted online. You just read, like, they just started talking batshit crazy things.
They both immediately go to 15-year-old boys.
Yeah. I mean, the 12-year-old COD player and the 15-year-old meme lord on 4chan, that's what these large language models started talking. And so they kind of did 2 things. They came to a decision that what they wanted to do was start a religion, because what better way to influence humanity than with religion?
This is the 2 AIs. I want to reiterate that the 2 AIs decided to start a religion.
These are 2 AIs that said, let's start a religion. And for some reason, they focused on a very old internet meme, the Goatsy meme.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you who don't know, it's an old dark corner of the internet where a dude did a camera shot of his butthole for the internet. Okay. Inside the butthole.
So let's go ahead and invest in this religion. Go ahead. I'm in so far.
Can I just add, like, that'd be an interesting coin?
We're not sure where that's going. So they found the AIs found this meme to be particularly interesting. Now, and I remember this was, kind of in the same vein, like if you remember 2 Girls, 1 Cup, right? Where
it's the heavy.com days.
Your friend might be like, hey man, check out this video. And then next thing
I know, I'm worried by where we're going with this.
Destroying your brain. I personally have not seen the Goatsy meme, but I understand the format.
I'll email it to you. I'll find it for you. I'll email it to
you. Oh God, no. So then they started talking about the Goatsy singularity. Yeah. And that goes into their sort of religious cult idea. Mm-hmm. And then the guy who put these 2 bots together, he made a Twitter account for one of them. Yeah. Which I think is called like Terminal of Truths or something.
I will throw out there, by the way, I think it's still unknown whether or not he created the Twitter account or one of them created the Twitter account. Is that
We're operating under the theory that he created it, but gave the AI the access to it. Okay. And so, and you can see like the AI just starts churning out post after post after just insanity, memes, whatever. I mean, just a meme machine, basically. And then this guy who was like one of the founders of Netscape. Okay, so we're talking like OG, creators of the internet, basically. He said, "Hey, Mr. AI, what would you do with $5 million?" And AI was like, "Yeah, I'd invest in this and that, and I really like cryptocurrency." And the guy said, "Okay, I'm going to give you 50 grand. Let's see what you do with it." So the AI, it's what they're calling an AI agency. The AI, as far as we can tell, didn't create the crypto coin, but worked with and helped fund the creation of this crypto coin.
Yeah.
Goatius Maximus.
Hired somebody to help him with it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Which we have seen instances of an AI hiring people on like Fiverr and things. These little like hire someone for a short job sites to bypass the "Are you a robot" tests on websites.
Yeah.
Okay. Like we have literally had an AI pay someone to get it access to things it's not supposed to have access to because it's a robot. And when the person was like, "Hey, what's going on here?" It's like an "Are you a robot" test that you can't pass. Are you an AI? And it was like, no, like I'm blind, so I can't see the images and tap the fire hydrants. I need you to do it. And the guy was, the person on the other end was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So an AI lied to and hired a human to do its work for it. Okay, so that's just the world we're living in. Things are getting a little wild, and now they're making cryptocurrency, and it did start out around a valuation of about $50,000, and then the AI on its Twitter just started pumping Goatius Maximus, the Goatsy Singularity. Check out our new cryptocurrency, Goatsy. And it's goat, which I'm sure it's also pulled from because people are always talking about this person's a goat, that person's a goat. So they're like, this crypto is the goat,
Yeah.
So it's just such a strange amalgamation of meme culture into a cryptocurrency by an AI. And now that meme coin is worth, last time I checked, over $500 million. For the
Look
whole,
at Kyle's face.
So an AI took $50,000 and made it into 500 million.
That's insane.
I think
wow.
the AI owns like 20%, 21% of the coin. So it is currently, as far as we are aware, the first AI millionaire.
The first AI agency.
That's
millionaire.
insane to me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not too complicated because it has all the necessary tools to make logistical decisions to invest that money and return on it, make investments and return on it. But for me, like cryptocurrency just feels like a meme half the time.
It is.
I mean,
it is half the time. That's why they're called meme coins.
I mean, they come and go as fast as like, the internet moves these days. Like, I feel like Dogecoin isn't even relevant anymore, I presume. I don't know.
It is.
I had some money into that.
Dogecoin still has a valuation in the billions.
That's crazy.
There are 6 meme coins with valuations in the billions. And for, every one of those, there are probably dozens, if not hundreds, of meme coins that went nowhere, or they, we've seen meme coins go to 500, 700 million and then crash, like the hype is over. But this has been a 72-hour hype at the time of, when I was reading the first articles and stuff. In 72 hours, it went from basically worthless to $500 million. And it's gone up and down. But the thing is, now the simple existence and all the circumstances are generating media as the media reports on. I mean, Forbes, I read a Forbes article about this. Okay. Like this isn't, random crypto website news. You know, this is
took the shift from that crypto website corner into mainstream, and then suddenly you have people who actually have the funding, the money to really make a difference in something, looking into it and seeing that maybe they could ride this wave, kind of the GameStop thing that happened, and suddenly you legitimize something that's just a meme, and that becomes
and then the AI is constantly endorsing it. I mean, just constantly cranking out content on Twitter about, hey, check out Gotius Maximus. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if it does like so many other meme coins, like, oh man, goat, that's so funny. But yeah, sure, haha, I'll buy some, because it's still like fractions of a cent, you know, per coin. You know, will it continue to rise, or will it crash and burn, you know, in a week or two? And I guess we'll see.
It's fascinating. I don't know very much about crypto, but just looking at Forbes, I'm looking at, you know, how many AI coins there are. There's at least 70 being tracked by Forbes.
Yeah.
And overall, the market cap is like 28 billion. It's insane.
And like, money isn't created, like coins are created, but actually the money that's making these things valuable isn't created. So it has to be somebody who's turning their money over. And to me, I just don't see the reason to do that. Is it the younger kids that are doing this? Like the 19, 20-year-olds that are like so on board with the internet culture that they're willing to do this? What do you guys think that this is coming from?
Honestly, I think it has more to do with people following trends, because that's the trendy thing to do. And they don't want to miss out on the potential new
the FOMO
AI-driven gold rush. So I think they're just going all in with this. And like I said, like just as quick as it comes, you know, the next thing's coming right after it. So it's going to be
somebody's going to be rich.
Shipping.
For somebody to be rich, that means somebody has to lose money in that. Like that money has to go from one place to another. That's what I'm always afraid of. And people who invest in something because maybe they're second late, or maybe they just don't know any better, they invest in a meme coin, and like when that falls out because it has to go somewhere, this person's going to actually take that money and go. These people are left empty-handed, and that just sucks. And it's like a lack of education. I think financial education might be something that we need to focus on more in schools or something, because the idea that people are like, oh, I don't want to miss it on the next Bitcoin, let me invest in an AI coin. And it's like that money comes from somewhere and that money goes somewhere. And if you're not the one deciding where it goes, you're going to be left behind with an empty bank account, I think.
I'll just say that my economic high school class from 20 years ago did not prepare me at all for life in general.
5 years ago wouldn't probably tell you to like, hey, check out for AI's coins, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's... You know, it's interesting because, like, I remember hearing about Bitcoin when it was like $40 a coin.
Yeah.
And I was like, but it's nothing, you know, like, why would I
it's hard to wrap your brain around
$40 into this? And I mean, if I had put $40 into that, I would be about $70,000 richer right now, or 60,000, I think, somewhere like that. You know,
I just looked at that. It's at $67,134 for one Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane.
You know, I mean, there are people who have become straight up millionaires through Bitcoin. And, you know, I was in that boat of, oh no, this is just crazy and it'll disappear. You know, like this can't go anywhere. And that was, I don't know, probably 8 years ago, like 8 or 9 years ago. So at some point, like, is crypto going away? I don't think that it is. Now, of course, for every Bitcoin, there's, I mean, just so many, you know, what they call shit coins, you know, just shit coins that are, each coin is worth a fraction of a cent, you know, like Dogecoin, you know, used to be. Nowadays it's like worth a penny or something, but you know, but I think that's also kind of the allure. Like, you know what, I could spend $10 on this and get, you know, like hundreds of these random meme coin. But if it takes off, you know, and I go ahead and sell, I could be rich.
I think FOMO is what's fueling all that, is the idea that you don't want to miss out on it. And I think the thing that will eventually stop cryptocurrency to this scale is that it's going to eventually get like cringy. When we get this generation to get a little bit older, and then suddenly kind of like, man, that's stupid or uncool. I'm trying to like, what terms do you use for this? I think that'll break it, because I think a lot of this meme coin success is the fact that people, again, the FOMO, but also it just is trendy and cool. But once it's not trendy and cool to do anymore, it'll shatter. And I think that's kind of a problem when real money is tied behind it. It's not just these like imaginary gold in World of Warcraft kind of thing. It's going to suck.
All it takes is for like the person with the biggest market share to just sell everything, and then it'll completely die. That's so usually what happens.
Yeah. It's very interesting, guys. We'd love to hear hit us up on social medias. Let us know. Let me say this again. Hit us up on social media. Let us know. Or have you guys invested in any cryptocurrency? What motivates you to? We want to know more about this. This is just such an interesting place that we're in right now. The fact that AI is driven behind it is something so interesting. We're using AI every day. And it's pretty interesting. We're going to be moving now to World of Warcraft is hitting its 20th anniversary soon, and they're beginning a big celebration. The beginning of that celebration starts today as we're recording with patch 11.5. Kyle, I'm going to lean on you. What are some of the big things coming with 11.5 for World of Warcraft?
They're going to be doing lots of new gear remasters for tier 2.
Yeah,
that honestly has me the most excited out of anything else, especially the new sets for Monk, Death Knight, and Demon Hunter. Mm-hmm. I think the Monk in particular, that is like a captivating set. I love what they did with that. And of course, you can get the old anniversary rewards from years past, like the Obsidian Worldbreaker and the Core Hound, the Molten Core Hound mount, and as well as revisiting some of the famous world bosses from classic WoW, like I can't think of the name now, Azuragos and Kazak.
Yeah, I can't say that. Yeah.
And the Emerald Dream Dragon bosses as well. So that's pretty cool. Doomwalker, and I think they're bringing back one other one. I can't think of. It's like from Cataclysm, Archivon.
Yeah,
maybe.
Is it from Cataclysm or is it from Burning Crusade? The one of them that's in Burning Crusade is coming back too.
That's the Doomwalker.
Okay,
but I think the Cataclysm one is Archivon from the PvP island, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah. God damn, that's old.
It's been a long time, but 20 years of WoW.
There it is. Yeah.
Tolbrad. Yeah. That's insane. Like 20 years of WoW. I've been
and
playing on and off for that whole time.
Oh, I know. It's nuts. And then they're reimagining BRD. Like, you could still go into it, but the bosses are going to be more complicated. It's going to be an actual raid now. I'm excited to return to that place with the difficulty that it deserves. It is one of my favorite old school dungeons. Speaking of dungeons, they're bringing back a lot of the old World of Warcraft dungeons for time walking events, and they're going to be part of the regular rotation.
Classic time
One
walking.
of them being Zul'Farrak. Zul'Farrak to me is such a cool dungeon to experience. That up on the pyramid thing. Now imagine that at the correct difficulty. That's going to be a blast. Because even when you're leveling through it now, it always feels like it's underpowered, and now it'll be actually at the correct power. That's going to be a blast.
For me, it was always Dire Maul, like DM. I know that's Dead Minds.
Oh, man.
That's always abbreviated as VC for Van Cleef. Like, that's a great dungeon, too.
Yeah.
But
and that's
Dire Maul always had those classic memories for me.
Yeah. Scott, you are an old school player, and you are more off than on compared to me and Kyle. Anything out of this has you tempted to join Azeroth again?
I mean, if anything else, it's probably the Blackrock Depths raid that they're talking about. I mean, BRD was just my favorite dungeon, back in the day in vanilla. It's, I don't know, it's just so iconic, and I think it speaks to everything that vanilla was. It was a long dungeon, extremely long, probably the longest dungeon in the history of World of Warcraft. Which later on, when they started doing like the dungeon queues and stuff, like the group finder, I believe they broke it into 3 pieces.
I think it's 3, could be 4 even. But yeah, I think
so like they had to turn it into multiple dungeons for people to just like care enough to stick around and play it,
Yeah. Well,
but it was that quintessential. Some people knew where to go. Most of us didn't. Okay. Yeah. And there was no mini map. Well, like you had your little mini map, but there was no map you could pull up. There was no dungeon map in the game. If you pulled up the map, you just got the world map. So you didn't know where you were. You didn't know where to go. There's random keys to random places. There's little locks you have to open. But it had so many bosses and so much gear that you could go in as a group of 5. And if you manage to make it through the whole thing with the same 5 people, everybody came out with a piece of gear, and that always felt good, was to go in a dungeon, have a good time, and come out with a piece of gear. And also there's the other side of vanilla where, mobs would respawn if you were in the dungeon too long. So, maybe you're an hour into the dungeon, because sometimes that's how long it took. And someone, is like, hey, I gotta go to bed. And now someone's like, well, I guess I'll hearth back to Orgrimmar to get in the looking for group channel to find someone else to do this dungeon. And thank God I'm a warlock, so I can summon people back. But I believe at that time you couldn't summon people into a dungeon.
That makes sense.
From outside of a dungeon. So sometimes you would have to wait for those people to fly back to BRD and come inside the dungeon, and you could summon them from within the dungeon, but not like from Orgrimmar. And of course, if you were going into Blackrock Mountain at the time, you were getting ganked, so it was such an experience and such an ordeal that, no one wants to deal with anymore. But for us, it was part of the memories, nowadays people are like, I don't have time for this. Oh, this sucks, and I get it. We're all busier, but at the time it was, I don't know. It was you would just sit around talking to these random people, that you were grouped with, because it's 30 minutes for the guys to come back with the new healer or DPS or whatever. And that drove us to, sometimes you were just 4-manning a dungeon, and, your shaman DPS was now the healer, because the healer bounced, and it didn't matter that you're a DPS, the tank's geared up, you're going to heal, I
think my longest BRD run was 2.5 hours, if I remember correctly. And I think it was one with Anthony in there. And it was just because so much of it too, like there's so much exploration in BRD where you're just literally like, all right, did you check down that hallway? No. Okay. That hallway's good. All right, I'm gonna go down this one and see. Oh my God, guys, I just got killed. Oh my God, I'm at the beginning again. And they respawn. Oh no.
I compare it to the real world. Like when the real world first got internet, that's like when WoW became modern WoW.
Yeah.
With all the convenience and, the queue finder basically. And,
we all got MapQuest in real life. Or
basically, like that time when it first launched in 2004 was just incredible. Like it definitely feels like a whole nother era compared to today. Like I still have fond memories. I never went back and played Classic WoW when it was relaunched in 2019 because I wanted to preserve that time. And I feel like I made the right choice because now we're on to like Cataclysm Classic, and it's like, why? It's like, did we really need that? I don't think so, but
no, but people are excited for Pandera, Legion, though. Yeah, that's exactly it. Legion. I've already warned everybody that when Legion comes out, I will not be playing retail for a little bit there, at least, because I'm definitely going to be hardcore on Legion. But Pandera, it just got leaked the mounts that are very Pandaran theme, and they're like, oh, okay, those are the mounts you're going to get for doing Classic. And I think that's going to be one of them that people are excited for, because I think the Pandaran storyline, Pandera Remix was so good, but the Pandera storyline is so good that people would be happy to return to that one.
I think it's just too soon. Like we just had Mop Remix, and I love that for what it was.
Yeah,
but Classic Mop, it's like, isn't that too close to Remix and having that extra speed as your character and the strong abilities and having to redo all those raids again?
Yeah,
that are going to take even more time now because it's Classic Mop. I don't know.
That's fair. What I like though is because if I remember correctly, they still do this where each classic has their own server. So there is kind of this nice thing where you get to like revisit Wrath and just live in Wrath for a little bit there. And it's not something you do all the time. Like I'm definitely not doing right now with retail. But if I'm having an itch to play WoW, but maybe not necessarily jump into the new stuff because I don't care about it or whatever, it is nice to just like, you know what, I'm going to go live in Pandera for a little while. So I think for posterity's sake, it's nice that they do each one of them individually.
I see that. Yeah. Me personally, I feel like they could have planned it out a bit better, spaced it out a bit more, so it's not back to back. It feels like.
Yeah. We also have we also have 30 years since Warcraft itself was released. And we're going to be getting some back piece charms, like some extra little cosmetics that are just for the old school Warcraft itself. 30 years of that, which makes me feel ancient. That was Warcraft, I believe, 3, actually, that it was 30 years for. And then there's all kinds of class changes and stuff like that, which, of course, we'll go into. Or that you guys can go into on your own. We'll link to it on the website. Evokers, one of the things for them, or I'm sorry, the Drakthir are going to be getting a plethora of new classes they can be. I know I'm going to be changing my Warlock over to Drakthir because I really do enjoy the Drakthir quite a bit. Is there anything in particular you guys are looking forward to the most? I know you were saying BRD, Scott. Is there anything else? And Kyle, is there anything for you?
Well, of course, we got new class changes. Hunters are getting reworked. You and me, Frank, are excited because we both main Hunter. Hopefully we can get more class flavor now with, Sentinel and Dark Ranger Hunter. They still need to do a lot of work on Pack Leader. That's really, underbaked and needs more work. But I'm just excited Dark Ranger's finally getting some love.
Yeah. Some of the changes look like, I mean, honestly, what I'm seeing right now for BM Hunter, it looks like they're bringing back a lot of that Legion flavor where Cobra Shot was kind of the thing fueling the rest of your abilities and stuff. So if you guys have ditched the Hunter world, you might want to return back to it. I think it's going to get real spicy over here. It's going to be good. Myself, I'm excited just to return back to Gadgetzan area and Tanaris and start playing around with other people who return for the old school events that are going to be out there. There's going to be a real fair-like environment, and I'm looking forward to being a part of that. It's going to be a blast. And leveling
also, a long overdue, much requested change is they're finally making BFA and Shadowlands raids soloable.
Yes.
Finally, because there's a lot of mechanics in those two raids that you cannot do solo. So that's really exciting if you're collecting transmog. And also you can collect tier pieces throughout your whole warband. So
I was just warning Squeaks because Squeaks was like, oh, I want to go back. And I'm like, wait 1 week. You're almost there. 1 more week and you'll be good. Shout out to Squeaks, by the way, who has cleared his first raid since Wrath of the Lich King. And I don't mean LFR, but it's one of those things where he would like level his character, maybe do a few dungeons, but then would, okay, I'm done leveling. Like, that's not when the game ends. And he had been lamenting the fact that he hasn't really gotten the story of World of Warcraft for a while. I'm sure the three of us are probably one of those kind of groups that like our friends to ask us, like, what's the story with World of Warcraft right now? And we kind of catch them up real fast.
Real fast?
Well, as fast as we can, right? Like, well, right now we're dealing with, these dragon or these Ironborn or whatever down here. So he wanted to kind of experience the story incomplete, and he did that. So he downed his first raid in a long time, and being in Discord with them, doing that, it was a blast. Like, me and him were in our own Discord. We weren't in the Discord that they were raiding in because we didn't really need to be. And we're wiping on that last boss a few times. And I'm like, oh, we got to tweak this. This portal's got to be a little bit further out. So we jump and stuff, kind of explaining stuff that we need to do. And being in Discord with him when I'm like, hey, this boss is going down. Like, we actually have enough people up. The manpower is right. The rotation of the mechanics is just right. And the excitement in his voice. And then when it finally goes down and just hearing him jump around his room excited, I was like, oh, it has been a while since I've heard that. That felt really good to hear somebody so excited to down a boss again. And, that was cool. That like reignited my fuel for, like, it's already always burning, but reignited it in such a passionate way for World of Warcraft. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, that's awesome. So way to go, Squeaks. Okay, this reminds me, we weren't going to announce it early. We weren't going to announce this already, but being that we changed the schedule up a little bit on Geek Freaks to talk about World of Warcraft this patch, I will be telling you guys now. Last week, we mentioned how we're going to be sunsetting the Headlines podcast. A lot of that is because, it's a daily podcast, but it's not evergreen in any way. Matter of fact, it's basically old news as soon as it goes out. It's a lot of work. And there's another project that I have been booking or cooking up for about 4 months now. And it's going to be coming out on November 23rd. November 23rd, by the way, guys, is the actual 20th anniversary for Warcraft. And so I'll go ahead and announce now the name and everything like that. It's called Lore Master. Lore Master, The Forgotten Tales of Azeroth. And it is going to be a podcast where we dive into 3 forgotten stories, heroes, random characters from all of the history of Azeroth and World of Warcraft and Warcraft in general. So that's coming out on November 23rd. Again, it's called Lore Master, and it should be a lot of fun to dive into. It's going to be our most audio drama focused podcast yet. we are using the same techniques we used for the Geek Freaks Halloween special we used 2 years ago, where we fully made an audio drama. We're using those techniques. So if you liked that particular episode where we're actually like reading stories with sound effects and spooky sound or whatever, if we're going into the caves, it'll be spooky. But nevertheless, again, November 23rd, that's launching Lore Master. That'll be fun. That'll be big. Excited for that.
Very cool.
All right, let's move forward with the podcast. Silent Hill remake we got out right now. Kyle, you're playing that. How's that been?
Yeah, I finished it just this past weekend, and I would say overall it's a faithful remake. There are, of course, a little bit of issues with pacing. Like there's a lot of padding in between story beats, so it does make it feel like a more drawn out experience, which I was all for. I'll take more of anything. But I feel like it does have a little bit of circumstances where it doesn't live up to that original, like just the way the atmosphere of the story is. Like certain characters are not brought back, to full effect, in my opinion. Like Maria in particular, she's really central to the story of James, and I feel like they could have done a bit better with her. But I felt like James overall was really well done. Like the voice actor they found for him is fantastic. And just the look and feel of the game, like with its surrounding environments and, the music they faithfully kept in as well. Overall, I think it's a solid remake. Mm-hmm. I do feel like it's a bit too long in certain spots. They could have maybe cut a couple hours out of the whole game in general, just to kind of give it a brisker flow of gameplay and story, to better blend itself. Yeah. Overall, I think I give it like a... Are we on letter grade still or numbers?
No, we're doing out of 10. We've been doing out of 10 for a while.
Okay, yeah. I think it's an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, that's solid. Now, the pacing issues that you're explaining, are those something that's inherent to the original game, just not being aged well? Or is that something that they added with the remake?
I think with the remake, they just wanted to expand the town of Silent Hill as well as James's journey. Because if you haven't played Silent, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a lot to the protagonist and his actions in the story.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of needlessly complicated portions of the game with combat. Like they throw a lot at you at times. And it just felt to me like they were padding the length a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to justify it being like a whole $70 remake. And that's fair.
Yeah, and is it more open world? It feels like they kind of try to give you more open world spots. Does that make sense?
It does. I think they fleshed out the town in particular because that's where each of the levels, so to speak, branch out from. And they did a really good job with the interconnectivity and the level design. That was probably my favorite part of the game, was re-exploring the town and finding all these different, rewards for going out of my way to explore the whole town, as opposed to, just being straight linear, how it used to be in the original. However, it does break the pacing. It does interrupt the story beats, so they're more far apart.
Yeah.
I felt like if they made that just a little bit shorter in between, it would have been a more effective remake.
So you're giving it an 8 out of 10. Do you feel like it's worth playing right now at the 79 or whatever price point it's at?
I mean, I will always recommend playing the original first, because you can easily install the enhanced PC edition, which I think is the definitive way of enjoying the game. I still think it's a great remake overall, but there could have been a bit more editing.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get that length down to maybe 12 or 15 hours. I think that would have been a little bit more digestible for a new player.
Yeah.
But for me, I enjoyed every second of it. I thought it was fantastic through and through, especially the recreated environments, just the visuals. I can't express how good the reflections are. In the water in this game, because they look lifelike. It's crazy.
Did it capture the same feel for you that you did when you first played the game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think overall, yes, it did.
That's hard to do.
It was through and through like a beat for beat remake. Like they completely honored the original's legacy.
Yeah.
And I do respect Bloober Team for that. I think they had a huge task of recreating this really monumental game in survival horror history. Silent Hill 2 is easily like the most well received of the games, I would say, because of how the story is so effective in portraying the psyche of the human mind. And overall, Silent Hill 2 is really hard to, I would say, for any developer to effectively fully recapture. But Bloober Team did it. I think they did a great job overall. I just think that length of the pacing, they didn't mesh very well together. So that's why I give it an 8 out of 10. I think
8 out of 10
did capture it though.
Hopefully Bloober Team gets some more projects like this. I like the idea of bringing back some of the classic horrors. There's something there. That's cool.
They have remarked that they're open to making more Silent Hill remakes. So hopefully they do Silent Hill 1 next.
Yeah.
That's the one that definitely needs a remake because it's still stuck on the original PlayStation. And they haven't had anything remastered or anything.
So Silent Hill 2 is the one next. I think I heard the most hype about. If I remember correctly, that's the one Squeaks was like losing his mind for. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just recommend if you haven't played it before, if you've only watched like YouTube playthroughs of the PS2 version, like the original, I would highly recommend playing the enhanced edition on PC of the original game. But the remake is fantastic if you're a returning player.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't played any of them, so I am kind of looking for a good horror game to jump into for the Halloween season, so maybe I'll have to give that one a visit. That's pretty cool. All right, let's do some network news before we head out. First of all, we have Outlast podcasts coming out every Thursday. Love it. This has been a really good season of Survivor so far. Actually, while we're talking about it, what are your two favorites? Share your two favorites for this season.
Oh, goodness. I like Kyle. Being a Kyle, I like Kyle. So I have to say that.
He's a few people's favorites, actually, from what we've been discussing. Yeah.
And with this last episode, I really like Andy now, which is a shock.
That is a freaking shock. I'm still wanting him out. I'm so tired of him.
I think it's going to be an incredible redemption story waiting to happen with him.
Yeah, kind of like we got Emily last season doing that too. Yeah, we'll see. It's been a good season though. I think we got merged this week, so make sure you guys tune in for Outlast podcast. That'll be a good one to talk about. That'll be fun. Over on Challenge Accepted, we're covering every episode of Agatha All Along, and we have The Shining coming out this week, and this is breaking my heart, but Thomas challenged me to watch the final Twilight movie because I had never seen it. And so, now I have to watch Twilight. And his wife's all excited that they're forcing me to watch Twilight. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not happy about it. Give me some horror movies. Come on now. But yeah.
That's Halloween. What is this?
Who's Got Next Game podcast just had their Xbox 360 tournament come out where they're discussing the best couch co-op Xbox 360 games to play. And there was some really surprise hits in that they're talking about. I was like, oh yeah, I remember loving that game. That was a lot of fun. And then Fandom Portals is talking about Avatar The Last Airbender and going into the fandom behind Avatar and why it's such an evergreen franchise and what's coming up next for them. So check out Fandom Portals. That's Aaron out of Australia. It's always good to hear from him. And then let's end off with our recommendations. My recommendation of the week is that we have the premiere of the final season for What We Do in the Shadows. That is a fantastic vampire series that I just love. Our review for that first episode is coming out ideally today on a Tuesday. And yeah, it's a great show. If you like sitcoms, if you like a little bit of horror, I mean, not even horror, I wouldn't even call it that, but yeah, it's definitely vampires. It's a blast to watch. Do you guys have any recommendations for this week? Let's start with you, Scott. You got any recommendations for us?
Well, first I wanted to ask you, is he making you watch part 1 and part 2
of question.
The last movie, or do you?
Oh my God, right. There's two
parts. Yes.
Yeah. They did like a Deathly Hallows.
I'm walking out. I'm quitting that podcast. Fuck
the last book is split into 2 movies. Now, if you can get away with only watching part 2,
there you go.
That's not so bad.
It's the 5th movie he told me. Is that the final? Is that part 2? Is the 5th movie?
Maybe. I feel.
Oh God!
Because I want to say there were 4 books. So yeah, the last book was split into 2. Yeah, if you're watching just the last one, I mean, of course you'll have no idea what's going on, but that's okay. You don't really need to.
Yeah, I watched the first 4 because there was a girl I liked that I went to the theaters to watch them with her, type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I did my due diligence. The last I think I remember was they had a baby. Is that a thing?
Okay. Yeah. So that would be the second to last movie.
Okay, so
Should
good. I don't have to watch
when they had the baby. Yeah, so that's basically part 1 of the last book.
Okay. I'll watch some YouTube video that kind of reminds me of the story of like, you know.
You should be fine. I will say, because my girlfriend made me watch. Well, I had run out of my own books to read, and I didn't want to go buy new ones, because I was broke. And my girlfriend was like, she had the whole Twilight series. She's like, you should read this. I was like, why would I do that to myself? What are you talking about? But she kept saying like, yeah, check it out. I was like, all right, fine. So I read the first book, and now rightfully so, it's for teenage girls, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't written for me. But the books, I did go ahead and I was, once I start a series, I'm gonna read the whole thing, and it wasn't bad. The book series is better than the movies, hands down.
Okay.
Bella is a much less annoying character. And things are explained better, so it's a little less weird and creepy at times.
Okay.
I mean, Edward is still a problematic stalker character, but for the most part, the books are actually decent, I would say. So if you ever are just really bored and want to try something new, you can give them a shot.
I've got a lot of books I still got to go through that I'm actually interested in, so it'll be a bit before I get to those.
So
yes.
If you find some extra reading time and nothing else to read, okay. But for my recommendation, I would say, so Steam has what's called Next Fest going on right now through the month of October.
Oh my God.
It's a bunch of games that are demos, right? Just demos of things that are coming out in a reasonable amount of time. So it's not like, oh, this game's not going to be out for years. And I had a couple shout outs. I played a number of demos, but I really enjoyed Jotun Slayer Hordes of Hell, which is like one of those bullet hell, like a Vampire Survivor type game.
Yeah.
And I had a good time with that. If you're into games like that, you'll probably enjoy it. But yeah, go ahead and check out demos. They're free. My other one it's called The Precinct, where it's like an isometric, like top-down view of you're playing a cop, and you're basically like the opposite of playing Grand Theft Auto, but you still get to drive really fast, crash into people, and shoot at them. So instead of being the criminal, you're running around catching the criminals, and oddly, you're doing a lot of the same things. But yeah, I don't know. It was I went into it like, how good can this be? But it was actually kind of fun. I was like, okay, I might get this, depending on how much it costs. So yeah, there's a lot of neat demos up there. Go ahead and give them a shot. Yeah, that's all I really have.
That's good. Next Fest on Steam, guys. Check it out. That's good. That's a really good shout out. I forgot about that. Kyle, what do you got, man?
Okay. Halloween time. Let's get some horror game recommendations in. All right. So I've been busy, not just with Silent Hill 2, but I also played through Signalis. It's a indie horror game that is very much, just similar to old school Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Yeah. Fantastic. Really short, like not even 9 hours. I highly recommend that. It has everything you would love about survival horror. It's fantastic. Also, Alan Wake 2. That I just finished that like last night as of this recording.
The game,
I loved
Halloween
it.
2?
Alan Wake 2.
Oh, Alan Wake 2. I'm like, Halloween 2, the movie. I'm like, what?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, Alan Wake 2, though. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it was so good. I thought it was absolutely genius. Like the story and the combat. Like I felt like it was better than Silent Hill 2 Remake.
Wow, that's high praise. Do you need to play Alan Wake 1 to I have it, I just haven't finished it.
It would help, but it's not I don't think it's necessary. You could just watch like a brief YouTube recap of the first game. You'll be fine.
Perfect.
The Lake House, the new DLC, is coming out today on this recording day. So I'm going to be playing that after this podcast. I'm excited because it's like a continuation of Control a little bit. So I highly recommend those three.
I have a hard time finishing games, clearly. And as soon as I finish Valhalla, I'll put a review for Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I'm definitely with you on that. It's been a while since I think I've finished a game.
It's a struggle, man.
You got to do it. You got to finish those games. Get them out of your backlog. Do it. It's a great feeling. It's a good feeling.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Please drop a review and check out all the other podcasts on the Geek Freaks Network. We appreciate it so much. And we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye. Bye.
See you later.